Hey everybody, it's Don. Today I'm along Mac-O-Chee Creek in Champaign County near the town of West Liberty, Ohio. And I'm going to explore an area of this stream that's been restored from a previously channelized version to a version that's with habitat that's been restored. And as a special bonus, I'm going to try to catch a trout today too on camera. So let's go. All right, I've resorted to my head mount because walking in an area like this, I need both hands free. I had been doing the handheld mount for a while, but today I need my hands free, both so I don't fall and kill myself, but second so I can fish along the way. So that's my goal. All right, so where we are is along a stretch of Mac-O-Chee Creek. This is in east of the town of West Liberty, just about a mile outside of town. And this part of this creek, which is a tributary to the Mad River, has had about 1,500 feet of it restored back to some of its original flow pattern. All right, so many streams like this one, many rivers throughout Ohio, most rivers of any size were channelized at some point, and that was true for this one. Okay, they were basically forced into becoming ditches to get the water off the land so it could be farmed and away from the farm fields as quickly as possible. Now, in doing that, they would straighten out the stream beds and create levees, usually with the dredge, and create more or less a fast-flowing ditch. And that basically provided limited habitat for fish and insects, aquatic insects, and even plants to some extent. It made the water flow faster than normal, and basically just greatly altered the biodiversity potential of streams and rivers throughout Ohio. So one of the ways that you restore a stream is to try to rechannelize it. Basically force it back out of that straight channel into something with bends and turns and a sinuous flow. And what you can get then is regions of flat, straight, slower water. You can get riffles and pools and runs. And this sort of habitat then is much more diverse. Okay, you have rocks and pools and water that's more oxygenated from these little falls. Along with the restoration of the stream channel, there was a lot of riparian vegetation planted to hold the stream banks. Native trees, like along here I've noticed sycamores, river birches, alders, some cherry species that were all planted around that time. Viburnum, arrowwood viburnum, a variety of trees and shrubs that thrive along waterways were planted in this area to hold the stream bank. And at this point, I think this restoration occurred around 2010, 2011. So we're about, 13 years out from when this was done. You can see these aren't fully leafed out yet. This is a sycamore here to my right. I see some cherries in bloom across from me. There's dogwoods across from me as well. It's quite filled in this area now with vegetation. Okay, this previously had been an open field that was basically restored and brought into this restoration. So I usually come here, it's almost like a pilgrimage once a year in the spring. I am a fisherman. Springtime equals trout fishing for me. And so this is one of the streams, including the Mad River and a few other streams around Ohio that have actually been stocked by the state with trout, brown trout primarily in this area. And so, I like to come back out here at least once a year and see what I can see and what I can catch, and just to remind me of my roots a little bit. All right, grew up being a fisherman, especially a trout fisherman. So my goal today was just to show you this area and what it's become and what it was, and to hopefully catch a trout on camera if I can. So hopefully you'll see the whole act. You may just simply see it after I turn the camera on, okay, once I succeed. All right, so I'll see you up the stream a little ways. All right, I've turned my camera on in the event that I can catch a trout on camera for you. So right here is a good spot. In fact, I've had some luck in this very spot, but also to show you, it's quite grown in around here, but I think this is a good spot to show you that how this stream, which was previously a straight stream that ran roughly, I guess, northeast to southwest through this particular area, was rechannelized to have deep turns in it. Okay, so here's a big bend. And so there are several turns that were put into this stretch of the stream. It's about 1,500 feet long stretch to return it to like a serpentine flow. All right, and again, there's still going to be some straight stretches, but there are now deep bends. And generally at those bends are where you get the deeper holes. I'm going to sound like a fishing professional now, although I'm not that either. Where the water hits the bank, often carves out a deeper hole, and that's where you have things like trout hiding. So why are there trout here in the first place? Well, first of all, trout are not native to this part of Ohio. There are some native trout in Ohio, wild brook trout in northeastern Ohio, in just a couple of small streams. So they're very rare. Right now, they're a threatened species, if not endangered in the state at the moment. But there are a few streams in this state that can hold trout, which is a type of fish that prefers cooler waters, can hold them throughout the year, so they survive and can grow. Some of these places they actually reproduce, but they don't always reproduce. The state will stock fingerlings or small catchable sized fish and let them grow for recreation mostly. And but they actually are not native here. These include species like brown trout and rainbow trout primarily. So in this stream, I think I've caught both before, but mostly brown trout. Again, the reason the trout can be stocked in some of these streams is because these waters are cool in these streams because they're spring fed. So the whole Mad River watershed is known to be, a spring-fed river, and its tributaries are spring-fed from the numerous fens and limestone springs in this area. That was an area of Ohio that was, heavily glaciated. Yet there are lots of glacial deposits and features that remain in this area. We might even actually take a look at some of those today. So while I'm on camera, I'll take a couple of casts until I decide to turn it off in embarrassment and shame. I'm fishing just with people will fly fish through here. I'm fishing just with what's called a spin casting, with this little artificial lure called a rooster tail. I've used this little lure my whole life. And it's a lure that basically has a little spinning blade, a couple of feathers, some solid body to it. Comes in different sizes, different colors, and it's a trout killer. Now, I've caught plenty of trout with it, but of course these shrubs and trees have caught plenty of spinners as well from me. There, I think I might have had a tap from some fish. All right, so for those of you who don't know fishing, sometimes fish will strike kind of lightly and not really take it. And I kind of maybe felt that there. So we'll see. And if they take it too hard and get stung, so to speak, they won't strike again for some period of time. In addition to the trout that are in this stream, there would be things like bluegills and smallmouth bass. There are creek chubs and minnows. There's a rare minnow in this stretch of stream called the tongue-tied minnow, which, again, I see lots of minnows chasing my rooster tail. That was another one of the goals of this area, was to restore habitat for that species as well, the tongue-tied minnow. And usually if you drag a lure through there and you have a lot of minnows following it, that indicates that there's not a trout in there, because the trout's presence usually scares those smaller guys away. So I'll give a couple more casts. I keep getting what appear to be taps. We'll see. They could be little minnows or these other little bit larger species called chubs, which I already caught one of those today off camera. There we go. Oh, it got off. That was a chub, not a trout. Creek chub or horn chub. There I am in the bushes. Okay, I got it out. Every now and then you get lucky. Now, if you see the flow rate of this is a fairly small stream, but in these areas where the water is pinched between a narrow portion, it's a pretty strong flow. We haven't had rains now for a couple of days, but we did have some heavy rains last week that would have had this thing flowing pretty strongly. And when it's like that, you basically can't fish in it. Okay, I think I've exhausted this spot with an artificial lure. If they haven't hit it after a few times of sticking it in front of their nose, they usually are not going to hit it. So, okay, I'll take a break there. You got to give some fish a lot of credit. Can't doubt their heart. Look at this thing. Okay, that's a minnow. That thing's about 1.5 times the size of the lure. It came after it. It got itself impaled on the side. Unfortunately, I'm gonna have to sacrifice it. But gosh, what made that fish think it was gonna take a lure that size? I don't know, but gotta give it to him. You know, has a lot of heart. All right, so thank you for your service. One interesting feature when you visit this part of Mac-O-Chee Creek is a couple of structures around here. Castles, in fact. So in the distance, as I'm approaching, I'm walking right up the center of the stream at the moment with boots that aren't high enough. But there were two really large castle-like houses built here. Piat castles in Mac-O-Chee. And these were, I think, relatives that built these. Back in the 1800s, kind of, mansion-style, castle-style dwellings to really sort of, I don't know if you could say flaunt their success or what, but they're pretty amazing structures. They have been or may be now open for visitation. I'm not sure, but I'll get some scenes of that up close in a little bit, okay? But I'm just walking upstream here to show you a little bit more of the stretch. So in this area, there would have been there's a curve up ahead. It stretches over toward where there's a highway just beyond, and then it curves right back around to where I came from. Okay, so this is an area where the major sinuosity was put back into the stream. And of course, without an aerial picture, it's kind of hard to see it, but I think you get the picture. All right, so it's a beautiful day. It's about, I don't know, 82 degrees. And I haven't had any luck yet, but I haven't tried real hard yet. So we'll see what happens. Just see minnows so far today and chubs. When you fish these small streams, generally what you want to do is toss your, whatever you're using, whether it be a fly or a artificial lure like I have here, the spinner, a little bit upstream of where you suspect the fish to be, because they lie in wait, and have it drift in front of their nose is the idea, okay? Like a natural, something coming downstream that they will then attack. All right, so I'll be back with you in a minute. Well, as these things often go, I just missed off camera showing you a deer that was in the water just drinking. It just took off out of the stream and up on the bank, took off. So pretty cool sight. I could have just made that up for that matter, but I didn't. So I'm sorry you missed it. Feeling lucky here. I think I've caught one around this rock before. Water's pretty fast. We'll see. I caught a stick. Now that. Get over here. Where a trout would lie would be alongside and behind that rock. See if I can get something to come right up beside it. It was maybe a little too close, and I can tell that because I pulled up a piece of moss. I want to be close to that rock without actually contacting it. With things like trout that are pretty picky and sensitive, if there's any debris on your hook other than what they think is food, they won't hit it. That's a kind of a strong current. I'll try on the other side where the current's a little slower. Nope, nothing coming out. Picked up more debris. Okay. With these spinning lures, you got to make sure your blade is spinning freely, or it sort of defeats the purpose. It gets all jammed up. There, I got a little stick. This is the fun of fishing. 98% of fishing is not catching any fish. 2%, if you're lucky, you're catching fish. Here's another little spot where the riffle slows down at the head of a pool. There's a rock and a lot of brush. Let's see if I can thread the needle. I like to do these little lob casts just into that slower, slack water behind the rocks and under the brush. Nope. The other thing about this is you often will see the fish flash. Even if it doesn't hit your lure hard enough to be hooked, you'll notice that it's there. And so you can move pretty quickly when you're doing this kind of fishing. Half of it is just finding how to present your whatever you have to offer and get it in front of the fish's nose. Because they hide, they're up under these banks, under these overhangs where it's really difficult to get something near. So you kind of want to at least get it close so they can dart out and take it if they want to. So you might be getting an episode here of about fishing, but without the fish. All right, I'll be back. In this area, this is considered the riparian zone of this stream over here. So the creek is to my left about 40, 50 feet. But all this debris that you see in front of me, this line, was deposited by flooding waters. 4 to 5 feet above that stream level right now. And so this tells you that this area earlier this year was completely flooded, but streams need this kind of zone, floodplain, to do this freely. And what we've done so much is channelize them, build levees, and prevent this natural phenomenon from happening, which, even though it looks like flooding here, it prevents flooding downstream in maybe more urbanized or suburban areas. So streams need to have a floodplain where they're allowed to do this. That helps dissipate floodwaters, let them soak in and slow down. And so, but it's pretty impressive about how high that water must have been earlier this spring. Okay, we're nearing the top of the restoration. So if you look to my left, there's a bend that goes around to the left. And there's a bend here in front of us. And then once you hit in the distance there, about 200 yards, that's the top end of the restored area. And so I'll get up there and you'll see what a simple straight channelized stream looks like, if you can't picture it already. But I'm still trying to catch a fish for you. So let's try this spot. Oh, there we go. I caught a stick. Can I get it out? Yeah. As long as you don't pull too hard, you can get a snag out. The key is don't get those hooks dug in or the line wrapped. There we go. Pull it up right past. Oh, I have little guys trailing it. I think they're just chubs or minnows. Like I said, if there was a trout in there, the trout's the big boss in these kinds of streams. So if there's a trout in there, it usually scares away those minnows. Yeah, if there was a trout there, it would have struck. Okay, so I'm going to try, I'll just keep the camera running, I guess. It's a little too deep for me to wade there. So I'll walk around. Again, give you a view of this flood debris, what this flat plain looked like beforehand. Now, a couple things are coming in here that aren't necessarily good. This plant in front of me is poison hemlock. This is a non-native plant that's deadly poisonous if you eat it. And the one way you can identify poison hemlock, which is in the carrot family, is by the purple spotted stems that it has. Okay, so you shouldn't touch this plant. Get any parts of it in your mouth. You certainly shouldn't eat it. Should avoid it if all possible. But that's an important invasive plant that's becoming more and more of a problem in places like Ohio every year. This one is called reed canary grass. That's also a non-native grass, brought here intentionally as forage and things like that. It likes wetter soils. So in this wet floodplain, it's flourishing. It was undoubtedly probably put here on purpose at one point, but it's a major invader. It really dominates wet prairies or wet meadows and edges of wetlands. It doesn't like to be in standing water necessarily, but it likes wet, moist soil. So that's reed canary grass, which is also a problem. All right, back to the fun stuff now. I'm gonna try to catch a trout. There's some good spots over here. If, like I said, I can present my offering to these trout in the right way. Okay, I'm gonna try to get above that log jam there and see what I can do. Here's a red oak that was planted, possibly a pin oak. See, it's just barely leafing out. And that looks like that is going to be a pin oak based on the branching pattern. These stout, tough, parallel branches parallel to the ground. So that's a pin, should be a pin oak. I'll verify that once it leafs out further. And that was undoubtedly planted. I see willows around here that would have been planted, some natural. There's cottonwoods in the distance there. Plenty of honeysuckle though. You can hardly ever avoid that. But here's one of those oaks flowering. So here are the catkins of pin oak. All right, and pin oaks like moist soils too, obviously. So that one's doing very well. These are all doing very well, and that one's flowering. So these are the flowers, no petals, just, we would call those catkins. And those are the flowers of an oak tree, and a lot of relatives of oaks have these kinds of flowers. All right, I'm gonna try to sneak across this log jam without falling through. That would be fun to catch on camera, actually. No, it wouldn't. All right, let's see what I can do here. I'll start by trying down that way. Nope. I need to get above this, I think. Yeah, that water's moving pretty quickly, so I can't quite get this spinner to dive down where I want it to be at my angle. Okay, I'll try to get above it. Let's see, over here. Maybe actually even above the log jam up there. Let me try that. Leaving the camera running in case I see something cool I just have to tell you about instead of showing you. Like me falling. Now out beyond in the distance, it's still farmed. So they ceased farming from this point down. But this all would have been farmed at one point, probably in corn and soybean, all that. Okay. There's something kind of neat out in front of us. Those larger, taller trees are all cottonwoods. That's a grove of cottonwoods. Fast-growing, Populus deltoides. Fast-growing tree that likes riparian areas. And they're flourishing. That's one whole grove. They very well could be clones of each other because they do spread in that manner. Okay, now, this is tough. Although the growth of all this stuff has been great, it's made it a lot harder to fish this stream. So I'm going to see if I can get something presented from probably, I tell you what, I'm going to go around a little bit more and be a little bit more strategic about this. Willows in front of me. Here's a honey locust with those giant thorns. So honey locust, talked about that before. Yeah, let's see, right here. Okay. My goal here will be to present something to the front edge of that log jam. See if I can entice something out that's hiding there. Well, I first cast and I caught a log. Does that count? So what I'm going to do is come to the other side. Try to get that unhooked. There we go. If you come to the side your hooks enter from, you have a better chance of retrieving your lure. Boy, you're really going to get the real sense of fishing on this episode. They don't show you this in the professional channels. I don't even know how that got so tangled. There we go. Free at last. I won't say the rest of that. I feel it though. Okay. Running out of time here. I need to catch a trout. Every time I come here, whether I catch any trout or not, I know I can visit this old friend. This is a big bur oak that resides right along the edge of Mac-O-Chee Creek. I just measured that thing with my trusty tape, and it was 54 inches in diameter, 4.5 feet in diameter. Nice gnarly old roadside bur oak. I do see it's been managed up there a little bit. He took some branches off that were extending over the road here. I don't know if they were bad or not, but nonetheless, it looks good. It's leafing out well, and it's nice to see it. Well, this is the naturalist signing off from Mac-O-Chee Creek. Today I told you I would try to catch a trout in this stream, and I succeeded. I tried to catch a trout. I just didn't get one. So this is a cool spot to visit. It's a little tough to fish now that it's grown in so much, but it's a nice example of stream restoration in Ohio to put back a little bit of nature into things that we've disrupted as humans for a long time. Okay, till next time, take care. Bye-bye.